It's the Craggy Rugby Podcast. We're in the Clan Stand for the last time, Danny. I'm going to hate not watching games from here, I have to say. But the place is jammed, absolutely jammed. They've given a huge welcome to Connacht as they run off before this massive game. And we're going to take a pause here for a second. Okay, Danny, we're going to give our bit. That's all fine and well. Everyone's standing looking at the big screen, but we have a game to talk about. Caelan Blade looks as though he's in a bit of trouble.
No, he looks like he's in a lot of trouble. They were doing their bit of tackling and rucking just before, as a part of a warm-up. And he did it once, had to come out, and he was on his hunkers holding his chest. That's a very bad way to start. You know, he was in a lot of pain for 60 minutes of the match last week.
Yeah.
You know,
and at least one of their tries came from Blady being unable to tackle.
Look, it's very brave of him to do that when he was down as the backup 9. But look, when you're starting a game where we have to get a win to give us any kind of a chance to have any kind of a.
With the results that are going today, we have to get 5 points. All the results are going against us.
So we can't start with any kind of weakened team in any shape or form.
I agree.
Whether, like, I would rather have a fully fit Colm Riley start and have a young 18-year-old on the bench rather than an injured Caelan Blade start, and he has to come off after 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, like, there's still a game next week as well to be looking at. But anyway, what are you expecting today? Because the weather is not quite as good as they said it was going to be.
Look, Connacht have to just come out, go all guns blazing. There's no, just let the shackles off and go for it.
Well, let's see how it goes. I think it's going to be a huge ask, but we'll talk again in 20 minutes. There's a sense of anticipation in the crowd, so let's hope this match fight of what goes on the field. 20 minutes gone, scores 0-0, Dan. It's been all about scrums, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's a very harem-scarum game and a lot of knock-ons. It hasn't been much of a flow, really. Like, there's been some nice bits of play, but then followed up by an error by both teams, really, to be honest. Nobody having the killing their edge at the moment.
No, but it's just 20 minutes and we've had 7 scrums. It's all about the scrums. Cully Tucker is looking around like a cat that got the cream. So Connacht still in trouble, but it is 0-0. We'll talk again at half-time. Okay, Danny, that's one hell of a reception the fans have given Connacht at half-time, because they lead 7-3 and have just held out. Stop. As you can hear, the fans are not particularly happy with the ref for some of the decisions that have not been made, but Connacht do lead 7-3. Brilliant try after a lot of possession in their 22 by Caelan Blade, who looks very injured, it has to be said, but he's been brilliant all through the game so far, and it's been a phenomenally battling display from Connacht.
That's the best way to describe it. But someone else who's having a great game is Tiernan. He's cut through the Stormers a number of times. Looks pretty good, but it is a very stop-starty kind of game. Yes, Connacht are winning at the moment. I just hope that they can keep up this brutal battle that's going on.
Yeah, the other player that's been huge in this game is Cian Prendergast. He's been an absolute beast out there. But then Evan Roos is just himself, and Evan Roos, it's worth it just to watch those two battling each other. It's been phenomenal. It's been a strange game with the referee, but Connacht have been playing with a decent breeze, so it'll be fascinating to see. Yeah, look at it, there is a good breeze up there.
There is, but there hasn't been much kicking.
But you can imagine that Stormers will not let that change in the day, or you can imagine the Stormers will take advantage of.
In fairness, they're the team that's done more kicking, and I can understand why. Porch hasn't looked solid under the ball.
Nope.
I'm not sure I'd be trusting any of our back three really at the moment. They don't seem that confident under the high ball.
Well, it's a swirling breeze, like it is, the way it catches. It is a bit of a swirling one. It's a strange breeze coming from a strange direction for the sports ground. Well, I suppose that's no excuse. These are professional rugby players.
But it's our home ground.
It's our home ground, it is indeed. Okay, we'll talk again after 60 minutes. Okay, Danny, 60 minutes gone. Connacht lead 12-10. Cracking second half.
Yeah, it is a cracking second half.
Here comes Santiago Cordero, making his debut. Player number 958, I believe it is, for Connacht.
Replacements of Connacht number 19, Oisin Dowling, and number 22, Santiago Cordero. Replacing number 5, John Dobson. And number 15, Tiernan.
And as you can hear, that was Tiernan going off for the last time in the sports ground. What a game.
Yeah, cracking game. Stormers struck first in the second half, and it looked like Connacht might be in a bit of trouble, but it was just the wake-up call they needed. Stormers have now let their discipline go, and Connacht have finally made them pay, Ainger getting that score.
He has indeed. I'm just looking. I think Cordero's going onto the wing looking at things. But anyway, we'll wait and see what happens. But yeah, it's all in the bag. 2 points in it. 60 minutes gone. And for a cracking finish. Final score, Connacht 12, Stormers 16. The right team won the game, really.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. Stormers took their chances. Got a little bit ill-disciplined just after half-time. But sorted that out in the last 20 minutes and, forced Connacht into a lot of errors. And
yeah, there's not much more to say. There's not much more to say.
Stormers 16, Connacht 12.
So we'll, let's go to the post-match press conference.
So, Pete, we've reached that point of the season. What's your initial reaction to that, the loss and the performance? Connacht were in that game for quite a long time, but then it got really hard.
I think we're aware it was always going to be really tough as a challenge with the quality of the opposition. So I don't think that's surprised us. I think at the minute it's disappointment because, as we said, we needed to win this to keep our destiny in our own hands. And now, we'll go to Leinster in 2 weeks, knowing we absolutely have to win that, but also that we need other results to be favourable to us, which we haven't had too often this season. So that's the disappointing bit. I'm disappointing as well for the occasion in terms of the fans and the leaving players that we couldn't, I suppose, garnish the day with a win, because I think that would have been really special for everyone involved. So there's disappointment. There's frustration as well, because I think the quality of our defence in our 22 at times, I thought was as good as it's been at times this season in terms of the physicality, the urgency and winning the ball back. I thought the quality of our attack when we got into a rhythm in the attacking 22 was very effective. We got 2 tries there that I suppose backed up what we felt we could do if we got access to the 22 against the Stormers, knowing how hard it is to get in there against that particular team. So we knew that we could stop them. We knew we could do damage when we were in the right bit of the field, but ultimately we had too many times where we cost ourselves possession opportunities in that attacking segment of the field. We had 2 first phase strike plays that were dropped at the line that resulted in turnovers that would have been brilliant access points to the game for us. We had a line out 5 metres out from the line where there was confusion around the call and someone ends up falling over and we concede a free kick. And, those 3, maybe 4 occasions on another, they're really important access points when you're playing a side as good as the Stormers, because you're not going to get a huge amount of shots to fire. So when you do, you've got to give yourselves a chance to do something with them. And that's where the lack of accuracy really frustrates me from this evening.
What do you think of the cause of that is? Because it's been an issue maybe throughout the season that these opportunities appear, or you make them, and then they're not closed out. Why is that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think there's any single answer, and our end of season review, when that time comes, we'll dig into it in a lot more detail probably than what we're doing week to week at the moment. I think when I look at the amount of errors we've conceded from a catch pass perspective this season and compared that to last season, it's no different. It's no different in that sense. But as I was just chatting to Hef here outside the room, I think it's where they're coming and when they're coming. And if it comes on a first phase play or the second phase of a planned move, or on your first phase when you've just won the ball back and it's a bit unstructured, you've got a chance for some turnover attack, that's when not only is it more glaring and it feels like you're conceding more than you probably are, but also it really resonates in terms of its impact of preventing you get a foothold in games or getting that access point into games. So, the numbers haven't changed, but I think the timing of it and the significance of it in terms of where we found ourselves in games, it has cost us, and that's something that has to get better if we're going to keep moving up the table.
Connacht passed the ball more than any other team, according to the stats. Is that an issue? Because the more you do that, the more chances are of errors occurring. That the strike doesn't come maybe quick enough, or there isn't enough strike created when you have the good possession.
No, look, I think it's a fair observation, and it's definitely something that we have to question ourselves. And I think if looking at the, I suppose, the analysis of our own attack this year, what we found is that in order to get the line breaks and points that you need to win games, we've had to have a volume of attack, a volume of ball carries in order to do so. So we're respectable. We're a top 8 team in terms of points scored, and I think 7th for tries scored before this weekend. So we're there as an attacking force, but we do rely on having 120 carries plus a game in order to fire enough shots to get those points. And I think the really good teams in this league and others are able to be more efficient, I suppose, with the phases that they have and the opportunities that they have, and they're able to generate those points and those tries, whether they've got less possession in the game or more. We're at a point at the minute where we're getting them, but we do need a volume of possession to do it. So again, that's something that we'll need to grow over the pre-season, and certainly leading into next season, it will be a key target for us. With
Leinster coming up on Friday week, there's only one more game to be played in this round, which is Ulster and Leinster. Are you just going to have to go out and say, right, we have to get 5 points here, and then see what happens? Because the bulk of games are being played on the Saturday. And is that fair when there's a kick-off time spare on the Saturday evening at 7:35? I was under the impression that all of the last day games were to be played on the same day.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and above my pay grade in terms of sort of, I suppose, even having to worry about it. It's one of those things. Certainly looking at the timing of it, teams playing later than us the next day will have a chance to know exactly what they need to do. That said, I think for us, we've had other times this season. We were actually reflecting on our Lions game earlier in the coach's office there, where we watched all the other teams play that day. Admittedly, it's not the final round of the competition, but we watched all the other teams that day play, and knew. Saw, I suppose, probably the one time all the results have gone our way, and in the end we went out and we didn't deliver anyway. So I think ultimately it comes back to your point, which is we've got to go out, we've got to win. 5 points especially would be important for us, but we've just got to go after it, and I was talking to John Dobson earlier before the game in terms of the tightness of the table and the position that Stormers and Connacht found themselves in before this game. Ultimately, we're in that tight position because had we won one more game earlier in the season or got a couple more bonus points earlier in the season, we'd be a little further up and a little more comfortable. So you've got to keep bringing it back to what you can control, and we've got to take responsibility for that, and me as head coach takes ultimate responsibility for that.
How do you think the scrum, because it seems to be the officials had decided early on that we had issues at the scrum, and it never seemed to, it stayed, and then they brought on the two new props and it seemed to go against us again. How did you read the scrum?
Yeah, look, I think that's the nature of playing the Stormers, in the sense that, like so many other bits of their game, they're super aggressive. They really go for it in terms of attacking the scrum on their ball and on our ball, and as a result you quite often get a decision from the referees brought in, whether it's in their favour or not. So for us, I think the fact that we recovered to get parity there and certainly changed the referee's perception, I thought that was credit to us. But it's not unusual. You get decisions in scrums when you play against the Stormers, and as I said, because they are so aggressive, and they look to either win it quickly or not. So it's the nature of the opposition, I think. But I was pleased that we found a way to level that off, as you said.
And you said you spoke during the week about how it was mistake followed by mistake followed by mistake down in Munster. That didn't seem to happen today, but the mistakes that were made were crucial. They led to those last couple of shots, and that must be frustrating both for yourself and the players.
Yeah, I think they are, and I think there's always going to be mistakes in games. Rugby's not perfect, and life's not perfect in that sense, and we have to weather those a bit. But I think when they do end up in points conceded, that's where they become more glaring. And we obviously had a box kick that went straight into touch around about halfway, followed up by a dropped high ball and followed by a penalty, and then it's 3 points and the momentum swung. So you can look at those more closely because of the outcome. I think for us what's really important is we look at every bit of it and the things that led to us earlier in the game not having opportunities as well. So it's frustrating. It's part of what we have to get better on. But with all the work that's going in around the place from coaches, from players, I've no doubt we will.
Dave, it's very soon after that game, so it's probably hard to just put it all together. But what's your initial sort of reaction to what was a very close match?
Disappointed, obviously. I think Pete said it pretty well. We had chances and we just weren't accurate enough at times. Key moments in the game, and that was probably the difference. They took their chances, we didn't. I know it's a cliche, but it's that's what it came down to.
You started off as a bit ropey in the scrum, and then you got it sorted. I mean, what did you have to do there? Was it just a matter of having a chat, or looking for what the referee was particularly looking for? Because you competed very well there after about the first three. Yeah.
Again, as Pete said, I think statistically they win a lot of penalties, but they give a lot of penalties away, so we knew that was coming. We spoke out there on the pitch after the first one, like 2 penalties against us early on, and I thought once we got in there we did really well, and that's what we spoke about after the first 2 and at half time again. So I think once we got in we were fine. It just took us a couple of scrums to get there, which was frustrating.
Were they exactly what you expected them to be? Did they play exactly as you thought they would, or did they change anything up?
Look, they're a quality side. They mix things up. That's the nature of the way they play. They've got aerial threats. They've got running threats. So we knew it was all coming. Were we shocked by anything? Not particularly, but they're very good at what they do. So
as physical as you expected it to be?
Yeah, definitely. Didn't disappoint.
It's mathematically, we've just discussed it with Pete there, so you've got to get ready for this Leinster game. It's quite a long run into it. How do you feel? How do you do that now when you know it's 5 points or bust, and even that mightn't work, but you got to get that on the board as the minimum.
Just try and get 5 points. We want to win. We want to go in to win every game we play. That mindset can't change, so that's what we need to do.
And if you'd come in maybe on say last weekend had been a better, would that have helped at all today? Was that in your minds at all, or was it just completely clean slate? This is just one game, we got to go at it.
No, I think we had a couple of tough meetings earlier on in the week. We addressed what went wrong. We put it to bed, and I think the emotion of sending the lads off and not having our last game from the clan meant we were able to switch over pretty quickly, and I don't think there was any kind of hangover from that. It didn't feel like that personally, and I don't think that came into the game either. So.
John, congratulations. That was a hard-fought, tough game of rugby, but you just had the smarts to see it out, and you turned the screw a little bit there from about 60 minutes on.
Yeah, it's probably similar to last week. We had a similar thing. I think our sort of the scrum and some of our size helps teams when they start getting tired, but Jeepers was like a punch for punch. Whatever we gave, they threw back more. It was an incredibly, I thought, a high-level, really intense test match out there.
Yeah, it's put you in a good position as well now. I mean, you've got the home game to come in 2 weeks' time, but you've got the 2 wins, you've got the 9 points out of 10. At this stage of the season on the road is fantastic.
Yeah, very tough. When we did our season sort of planning at the start of this calendar year, this was a game we expected to lose. We know how tough it is here, and just the emotion that Connacht had, and they didn't just play with emotion, they were clever, physical. It was feels a bit miserable knocking Connacht out because such good pace and vibe, and the experience today when the Fields of Athenry was singing before the game. I actually said on the radio, boys, we're in for a tough one. It was special. But from where we are, we couldn't actually ask for much more. I don't think many teams would have beaten Connacht here tonight.
Your 9-10 were very, very key to that as well. Their decision making, some of the kicking. They just looked to be in the groove.
Yeah, I think we had 1 or 2 chances in the first half where we could have, we were a bit loose with the ball, stuff we talked about yesterday, which could have put, if we got a try or two into the win, we'd be much better off. But that first 15 or 20 minutes after the start of the second half, where we started to concede penalties, kind of got the rumble on us physically, so trapping our tacklers in because they dominated the collisions. We're under real pressure. But Lubbock, they say he's not good, only a fair weather play. I thought in tough conditions he was superb.
So what's next for you guys now? You've got this game against the Lions.
Yeah, correct.
And then you work out, maybe you've got a home quarter, or maybe you have to go back on the road again. How will that be?
Yeah, look, I think we're going on the road, and I think it's probably the right thing for us, not only because of what we deserve. I think we've played every single playoff game at Cape Town Stadium. I think we need to learn from experiences like this. This is a big win for us. Connacht is always a big win for us, in where we're trying to be better on the road. So, look, our shareholders won't like it, or probably our players and the manager, but it'd be good for us to go and play a tough team away in a funny way. It'd be good for the group.
Well, it'll be a great challenge. Thanks very much for talking to us. We're glad you enjoyed your trip to Galway, and congratulations, well played.
Thanks very much. It was magic. Galway was magic. This was a great rugby occasion. Just sorry, the fairy tale wasn't the ending it probably deserved.
John, you looked very pleased after that.
Yeah, with massive relief. That was a proper rugby game. I thought it was a high level one, a high level URC. I thought it was tougher than I thought it was going to be. So it's massive relief for us to come on tour, get 2 wins. I think when we put our plans in for the season, you don't put Connacht in Galway as a win. It's a very tough place, and I thought they actually maybe the occasion, but jeepers, they were good. They attack, the shape, the options, their physicality. We were trying to sort of almost out South Africa in the mouth bullying, literally as good as we gave, they gave back. So from our side, I think massive relief. One stage it was 60 minutes we were staring down the barrel, so very relieved.
Well, then what was the difference in that final quarter to just kind of edge that arm wrestle?
Yeah, I think the scrum, getting a couple of scrum penalties, and then I think that if you. South African teams do pride ourselves on just being physically there the whole time, and some stage expect other guys' legs to go a little bit. I think also, unfortunately, in our case, the toss, so we had to. It was quite easy to make them play from how the game ended down there in the. I thought we had a good first half, so we could have got a try or two, and then we sort of. Marty he's not known for it. He was quite nicely tactical in keeping him down here, making as the game ended, Connacht run out of the 22. But I think the scrum penalties probably gave it to.
All right, just one for me. How did you enjoy the sitting in the clan?
Actually, it was emotional. Actually, I put on the radio in the fields of Athenry had been sung before the game. I said, boy, just to the medics, boys, we're in shit here. Let's go. I said that wasn't constructive with the head coach. That was magic. In a funny way, obviously desperate to win, but I didn't really want to be a team to knock Connacht out of that. The last game of that clan and that what do you call it? The clan. It's so loud. It was a brilliant experience.
So, there was the voice of Pete Wilkins, followed by a very disappointed Dave Heffernan, but then an equally excited and happy John Dobson. And especially that last bit, William, he seemed to revel in being in the clan stand. He really enjoyed it, because at the end, as Danny said, he was bouncing on his seat.
Yeah, look, they've had a great week here. They went dog racing, they went to Murty's for a meal, they went to the Cliffs of Moher, they went and dived off the tower in Salt Hill, the diving tower. They played golf. The coaches won a lot of money at the dogs, so some of them went back last night and had another go. And he said the biggest mistake they made two years ago was only coming in here on the Thursday. He said they'll never do that again, and he said they felt that got them ready for this game. I said to him when I did the big interview yesterday, I said, watch out for Sean Jansen. He said he is the business.
Yeah, the business. Dave, we seem to be very close to being the business, but not quite the business. You're always giving out to me about my stats, and our stats show that we're actually quite a good rugby team, but we can't seem to win games.
We suppose to a certain degree, our rugby this year has been very much like the clan stand. It is beautiful. We're very passionate about it. But if you're actually dispassionate, it's not quite good enough for this level of rugby. And we are not quite good enough for this level of rugby. We made them work incredibly hard. That is not how they normally win games. Manny Lebok was, by his standards, incredibly restrained. He didn't do anything batshit insane wrong. He didn't do anything batshit insane right. He was very restrained. He was a normal number 10, and that's what we did to them. We are incredibly competitive. Yes, there's been a couple of games this season, like last weekend in the game against the Lions, but more importantly in Europe, where we do get blown away. And when things go wrong, they go very, very wrong. But when things go right, we're fine line from being competitive and winning and being competitive and losing. But that line has been crossed too much on the negative side this year. And I think there's a lot to look at next year in terms of coaching and in players and what we get out of players before we become competitive and winning. Because, yeah, we're competitive. That's why we're 9th. But 9th might as well be 16th in terms of what it gets you for next season.
Exactly. Danny, your thoughts? It feels like we're watching the Connacht of old who make teams work hard for wins, but they're the ones who win.
Yeah, but I guess the problem with the Connacht of old is that, like, there wasn't as much talent in the teams as there is now, and you can see guys that are very talented, but it's not, for whatever reason, it's not clicked. It's not working. They fought hard and everything, but they still lost. You know.
He's been in your school, William. He only cares about wins and losses.
Yeah, it's about winning. It's professional sport. I thought there was a big gulf today again with the bench.
Mm-hmm. It did seem strange that we took off both our captains at the same time, the on-field captain and the club captain.
Well, the club captain couldn't walk because he had cramp, but it looked slightly odd to me that Dave Heffernan. I didn't ask him there. Did he want to get taken off? It is a problem. I asked Pete about the inability to strike, and that's something. The stats show it. We pass the ball an extraordinary amount. Yeah. The more you pass it, the more opportunity there are for mistakes, and that is the way other teams look at it. They go, "We have to turn this now. We have to create now." We are inclined, when we get into the 22, to slow down, and the ball just goes back and over and back and over. And sides know how to defend that. Because if you ask a professional rugby team to defend by just making tackles, it's hard work. But it's not a challenge. It's
a physical challenge, not a mental challenge.
Yes. But you're not asking them questions. Nothing's happening in midfield.
Yeah.
Nothing is happening about moving the ball. And that means, I think, sides can sit in games against us. Stormers thought they'd win that game easier. That's the bottom line. They weren't being disrespectful, but they thought they would win it a lot easier. And they're very, very glad to take the points and go home. And John alluded yesterday when I was told, John Dobson, that he was aware. He said, "You've left 7 points behind this season." He threw that straight out at me. And he'd obviously looked at the results and gone, "Yeah, well, they should have beaten Leinster and they should have done this and they should have done that." And that's really, we backed ourselves into a corner. We tried to replicate what we did last year. The big difference last year was on the 1st of January, 4 wins, 7 losses. You need to win 6 out of 7. But the Inter-Pros were finished. And last weekend is the old Achilles heel with us in Inter-Pros. But then that was Munster's first win in an Inter-Pro this season. But they fixed that problem by going to South Africa and winning 2 games. So we're very close. But there's going to have to be some real soul searching about turning possession into scores. And we've got a few problem areas. We're very badly stretched at 10 at the minute. I mean, Jack, I thought, played pretty well today, but I mean, he was in bits by the end. They're going to have to look at that. Do they just go with David Hawkshaw, who I thought had a decent game today, but looked as if he hadn't played rugby for a while, which he hadn't? Do you say to him, right, you're going to be a 10 and you're going to start the pre-season as a 10?
But they had Cahill on the bench as a 10 and he came on as a 10.
Well, yeah, but David Hawkshaw was starting. I don't.
He started at 13.
I think, what I'm saying is for next season.
Yeah.
With Piers O'Connor coming, you say to David Hawkshaw, listen, you're the third choice. If he is the third choice behind Byron Ralston, who had a nightmare today. He dropped the ball 4 times and he made some bad decisions, and then he turned it on a couple of times. If David Hawkshaw is going to be third choice 13, then I would say to him, we're going to mark you down as a 10 from the start of pre-season. You've got young Sean Nocton and you've got Jack Carty. Is that enough? I don't know. They're hard to find, and if you offer a good quality 10
we only want you here till February, March, and their agent is going to say, tell them to, you know what. That's not going to happen. So there's a lot of thinking to do, and I know there's a lot of focus on the clan coming down and the redevelopment, but they've got to change a few things on the field. They're close enough. It's very simple. There's 18 games in a season in the URC. If you only win 2 interpros, you're effectively playing a 12-game season, because you're writing off 4 interpros. Out of that 12-game season, you've got to win 9 of those games.
Which they've done this season. Won 9 games.
Yeah, but 2 of them are interpros. You've got to win 11 games. It's very simple. 11 games and 11 bonus points across the 18 games get you to 55. That's the job done. You will be in the top 8, and you will probably not be in 8th, where the position can happen. But they're not going to get to 11 wins this year. And yes, there was wins left behind, and that maybe still is in their head slightly.
Yeah. You have something to say, Dan?
Yeah, it's just when you were talking about kind of the cutting edge, what I find frustrating is that in the first 20 minutes, Connacht cut them open 3 times. Now, it was in a similar position, but we didn't do it again. They fixed it, and we just went, we can keep doing this. It'll come again, because they ran down Leboc's channel a number of times, and the first time they did it in the second half, their number 8, his name Diamani, came through and just smashed Jansen. Like, he was waiting for him. It was just because they knew that was coming. So it's a bit...
It's predictable.
Yes, very predictable, and a bit too prescribed, and nobody seems to want to try and change it. Like, you just change that out one like, okay, we're going to run off 10. Now we're going to do it running off 12. Something small. It's not, you're not talking groundbreaking stuff, but you're making the defence question what they're doing. And this far too often, especially when we get into the 22, it's one out runners. We need to get better at that.
There's also, I go back to Liboc. Liboc today did everything a 10 is supposed to do, but that's not Liboc. Liboc is supposed to kick ridiculous conversions from the edge of the pitch, having dropped the ball 8 times during the course of the game and being the hero despite being the villain. He has an X factor. We didn't see a lot of Helant, who has an X factor. The 2 wingers, didn't see an awful lot of them. But we know that, we've seen them in other games. They are all capable of doing something ridiculous. We have players who can do something ridiculous, but we seem to be restraining the ones at the moment. And the one who kind of never does that has been out injured since January. And I think that has been massively constricting. You're right. We do. The guys have basically nailed it, but we also tend to we get very prescribed. I mean, when they kicked close to our 22, it was from Liboc, and it was up in the air, forcing our guys back, and with a non-rushing kick. We kicked box kicks, which automatically means all our guys are static. It means that they can see it coming, because nobody does a snap box kick. Everybody can see it coming at least for 5 to 10 seconds, and we still made a hames of the kicks anyway. So we got very prescribed. You're right about the passing back and forth. It's prescribed. It's what they're supposed to do. It's what you do when you've run out of ideas. And I think the guys we have guys, like I said, we'd love to see what Santi can do next year. It is interesting. Ralston is on the squad list as next year as a centre, so I think he'll come off the wing. But there were guys there clearly there's guys lacking match fitness, but mentally, I don't know how we address this mentally. We go back to Jack Birthwaite. He was huge. Birthwhistle, I'll get there eventually. Jack Birthwhistle, who was huge for us. And then he left. And I think this season more than ever, it's been clear that things have got into the guys' heads where they've gone back to basics. And the problem is when you go back to basics, you make it easy for the opposition.
So, we've got Linley joining us. Your thoughts there, you just finished your report, sent it off to the Times and the one for the Advertiser as well. But what are your thoughts on what happened today and what Connacht need to do to change things?
Gosh, if we all knew that, I don't think Connacht would be in the situation it's in if we all knew how to change things. Look, it was a disappointing result and also a disappointing performance, I think, given the amount of possession that they had. Mm-hmm. But that said, the Stormers are a very good side, and we can't deny it. They're very big, they're very physical. I mean, they're not where they are because they're not, they're easy to, roll over kind of thing. I think Connacht needed to be I think probably more clinical in. They had chances, they didn't finish them off. But when you're up against a side like the Stormers, that's what they do. That's, they put you under pressure. So I think Connacht will look at that with regrets. I'm sure they will, because this was at home in front of a wonderful crowd. It was a great occasion, with players leaving and this last game in the Clan Stan, so there was quite a lot of emotion, involved in the whole occasion. So it's just a pity that they couldn't kind of wrap it up with a victory that it deserved. But at the end of the day, they didn't deserve.
Nope.
We all know that they can play better than that. So,
it was a big step up from last week, but still not good enough.
Yeah, it wasn't just not really clinical enough. I think when it needs to be.
Okay, couple of things just to finish off the pod. We said goodbye to 11 players today. Here's some of the highlights.
He's the joined the Connacht squad. He's Connacht player number 888. Let's hear it for Big Gavin Thornbury. Appearances in just 5.5 years says it all, and more importantly, the daily supplier of news to the players and staff alike. Give it up to Connacht player number 905, Tom Daly. January 2017, this club was stuck for the centre, and in through the gates of this place comes our next player to save the day. Little did we know that he would go on to become one of the most skillful, exciting 13s this club has ever had. Put your hands together for Connacht player number 881. Tommy Fazfall! In just 7 years, this next man achieved great things at Connacht that would sum up and spend their entire career working towards. He arrived in from New Zealand in 2017, and such was the impression he made in the place. He was named club captain just 12 months later, a role he would hold on to for 4 years. He made 128 caps at this time, starting at 107 of them. He's the epitome of consistency, never gives less than 100%, always has a smile on his face. Let's hear it for Connacht grade player number 885, folks, it's JB Jared Butler. Years at Connacht, 238 appearances, a Pro 12 winner, the opening try scorer on our greatest day of the Pro 12 final, 2017 Player of the Year, 6-time international, 50 tries for club and country, and more importantly, he's one of our own and simply one of the greatest ever. Connacht player number 788. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Tiernan Heffernan.
So it was a huge ovation for Tiernan. Like, it was, the crowd really got behind that, and there were, I think, it was tears in his eyes at the end.
Yeah, I would expect there to be. Look, he's been here a very, very long time, and I don't servant. He's been a fabulous player for Connacht. Kept going there at the end, had a bit of a wobble a couple of years ago, but he's gone off on his own terms. There's players who don't go off on their own terms because they're let go, or they go into some consultant's office, and as one player told me a couple of years ago, he threw up a couple of x-rays and said, yeah, you're done, and he said, yeah, you better go and find something else to do, and essentially you can pay on the way out. And he said his career was done in 3 minutes, and he was gobsmacked because he didn't know what to expect going in.
Yeah.
That's tough. But even a player like Gavin Thornbury's had a lot of injuries. He's going on his own terms.
Yeah.
Whatever he's going to do, he made his decision. He came back.
He's going to be an accountant. He's one of the best accountants in the world.
Yes, he is. But he's also came back, played some matches, 3 horrible injuries. But he came back from those. And yeah, it's always sad to see players go. There's a couple of players I'm a bit surprised are going, frankly. Jared Butler being one of them. And he would be the main one, but look, it happens every year. It happens in every club, and I think Connacht, at least, I think they get it right.
Yeah.
Some clubs, it's they just release a list and it's goodbye, good luck, and who are you, sort of thing. And one of the hardest things for them, I'm told, is the players have been playing regularly, is they just disappear out of the WhatsApp group. That is kind of the standard thing that happens. That I spoke to a cricketer that it happened to, and he said the worst bit was he went onto the WhatsApp group the following day and he realised he was blocked.
Yeah. You miss JB, won't you? He's one of your favourites.
Well, I guess maybe because I'm biased, because he was born about 40 miles from where I grew up, so in New Zealand. So, look, I think Jared Butler has been an immense addition to Connacht. Apart from the fact that he is New Zealand born but lives in Australia, I won't hold that against him. He is a very intelligent, well-educated person, and I think he's been a wonderful ambassador for Connacht, always willing to stop and talk to supporters, children. I think he's a huge loss, in terms of his all-round ability to promote Connacht rugby.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, the final thing that's happening is this is our last podcast in the Clan Stand. We started the podcast 9 years ago in the Clan Stand, William. It was a long time ago. A lot of things have happened, and it's a lot different now, but it's not going to be quite the same, is it?
No, it's not. I had a lovely chat with Joe Healy on radio today. We were just talking about the fact in November I'll be 50 years coming to this ground, so I've seen it at its worst, and we've seen it get to now, and we know that what's coming is going to be a world-class sports facility. Yeah. And I think you have to aim as high as you can for that. It'll be for the players. The facilities, they will have a half-size indoor pitch, just everything to facilitate their fitness and health. And it'll also be a top-quality place for people to come and watch rugby. Maybe not as raw as we would expect, but you're going to be able to do a lot of corporate stuff. And the corporate stuff is expensive, and it produces money. Yes. And money then is able to be fed back into other things to do with the professional and the amateur side of it. Companies will spend enormous sums of money to bring 10 people to a rugby match, and they want them fed and watered and looked after. And if they feel comfortable, they'll bring them again. And then somebody that is brought to a game will go, my company might have a go at this. Yeah, I'll do that.
There'll be lots of people who come in the first game. They're going when it's finished, and they'll go, they won't be happy. And then the match will start, and they'll forget, and they'll boo the referee, and they'll cheer us, and they'll boo the opposition, and the teams will go off, and they'll go out, and they go, oh wow, that wasn't actually as bad as I thought it was. But we've no idea. I mean, I remember Murray Kinster was down here not that long ago, and he was blown away by the fact that the dog track is staying, the edge of the pitch is staying, but then he saw where the other end of the stadium was, and he just was like, this is insane.
I think at the end of the day, you're looking at producing a Connacht rugby team who has facilities for more supporters to come to, more money, to make more money so that it can be ploughed back into players' wages, so we could possibly get some
and player development and youth development, and bring it all the way through.
All of that. Now, as I said, I think we chatted about it last week. I love the place the way it is. I love everything about it, but at the same time, everything does have to grow, and we can't always be sitting fourth in the table of interprovincial teams, because when you look at all the other facilities, they've all grown, they've all developed. Whether it's Truman Park or whether it's, the RDS or whatever, or Kingspan, they've all developed and grown. And we're still, number 4 on that list. So I think it's bloody timely, quite frankly, with you, as much as I say as I love the place the way it is, but I'm not a corporate person, No. I'm not one of the corporate persons. I'm not the one sitting there going through the book saying, Jesus, how many more people can we get through the gate, or how many people can we get to pay for a lovely corporate lunch and sit upstairs.
And how do we entice them, exactly, yeah.
And the other thing is that remember that new stand is going to be a facility not just for rugby. It can be rented out, and more money will come in. So I think it's a great new start. And the best value of all about is that the sports ground is still only a couple of minutes walk from the centre of town, and I think that's one of its best attributes.
It is. Okay, we'll finish off with just one memory that you want to bring up of the Clan Stand in particular, rather than the ground, because the rest of the ground, as you say, is not going anywhere, but the Clan Stand in particular.
God, there's so many. I think the night we beat Harlequins in the torrential downpour, it was a monsoon.
And
a 15-game losing streak.
Yes, and we beat them by a point.
Yes.
And their fans were here, and they couldn't believe it. I don't think we could quite believe it. It was badly needed that night, and this place was bouncing, even though it was absolutely tipping down.
It was. Dave?
I have two.
Of course.
Well, one is professional. One is Glasgow, the semi-final, where the place went nuts. And also trying desperately to book flights to the UK the following week and realising I'd really left it a bit late. The other one was the first schools final I was at here, which was a different bit of time. The Clan can be incredibly noisy. I know that they're not always the most enjoyable events for people working at, but the first one I was at was incredible. I'd never been to a schools final. It was incredibly noisy. The atmosphere was amazing, both junior and senior, and there was a young lad playing in the centre who was head and shoulders above everybody else, and his name was Robbie Henshaw.
There you go. Linley?
I'm not sure if my memory was originally about the Clan Stand, because it was kind of, when I first arrived here, it didn't really exist at all. So, but I guess one of my first memories was actually watching the All Blacks play here in 1989. And I think that's what possibly drew me up here for the first time, and kind of almost like got me hooked in that sense, because I actually, as I say, I liked the rawness of it. It reminds me more of New Zealand, because people go to New Zealand rugby matches and they're always standing out in the rain and the cold and the wind and whatever. It's nothing unusual over there. Yes, there are more fancy stadiums now because of the whole change in rugby, but that's how we grew up, you know. So coming up here was no different. But I also think that I loved the Clan Stand. I loved the atmosphere and the noise of it, and I like. There's a sort of a sense of homeliness about it, you know. And I think because we're this team that was always sort of on the bottom rung, it has built a huge camaraderie amongst supporters and people, you know, who, whether we're scribes or writers or television people or whatever, I think there is a sense of great camaraderie, particularly when we do go away from home as well, and particularly in that season when we did win the Pro 12. I mean, that was probably just the most amazing experience most fans have actually enjoyed of Connacht, and those moments when, you know, we were at home and for the first time we weren't losing matches, we weren't scraping through losing by 2 points or whether it was 2 or 20 points, we were actually winning. And I think that that momentum that Connacht got in that season under Pat Lam has actually led to where we are today. Because I don't think there would have been a slight change in attitude or realisation or an acceptance that Connacht could actually be not just the
14. They actually can. You can actually win.
You can. Yes, absolutely. With very little money compared to a lot of the other provinces. So that's why I guess this new complex is actually going to aid that. But I think hopefully it won't change sort of the heart of and the soul of where Connacht is. We're still the fourth province at the moment. We can be the first province, but we don't have to change.
Exactly. And I want to finish off. Emmett wasn't able to make it today, but he sent in a lovely little story which sort of highlights what you were just saying about the homeliness of this place. He said his big memory of here is a very close game against the Cheetahs. We scored a late try to win, queuing, all sorts of celebrations, and I ended up hugging a stranger beside me. The stadium announcer then comes on to say, and the try was scored by Tom Farrell. The stranger shouts out, "That's my son." That's what you want. That's what the Clan Stand is able to bring. That's what it can give. It'll be missed. I adore the place. I just think it's magnificent. I just think that the atmosphere and the noise and everything, and as Dobbo said there at the end, he just thought it was magic, and hopefully the new stand will be half as good. And if it is, we'll be doing well. All right, that's it for this week's, folks. Another loss.
Loose, cut it loose. Break out or nothing changes. Sad and confused. Don't wait until